And he has advised everyone, including the President of the United States, and that's been some of the ongoing discussions over the past 72 hours about drawing a line in the sand and stopping negotiating with these Republicans who don't care about working people and taking a hard line tomorrow night when we talk about jobs. That's where he's at. He's out there doing his job.
Okay, Fred Jaguar, comment on President Hoffa's attendance, non-attendance.
Well, in May of 2010, I sent Hoffa a letter telling him I was going to run against him for the general presidency. And in my letter, I told him that I wanted to debate him in front of each joint council throughout the United States and Canada. He declined. He ran. He didn't want to debate. In the same letter, I asked him to debate me before the delegates at the convention would vote on the candidates for general presidency, general secretary treasurer, and vice presidents. Again, he ran, just like he's running from the membership. He should be here tonight. He's always got an excuse to run from the membership. You can't lead when you hide, and doing nothing is not the answer.
Okay, Sandy Pope.
First, for the record, Hoffa turned down being at this appearance months ago, so he didn't know that this was cooking with Fox. And by the way, with Fox, a lot of our members and a lot of working people watch that news station, and I've been on there defending the unions and defending the Teamsters every time I get the opportunity, and that's where I think we need to be. So he's just chicken. That's all there is to it. He can't do anything that's not prepared.
Our next question comes from Ryan Grimm, and it goes to Fred Jaguar.
So earlier tonight, you criticized President Hoffa for his failure to organize more of the car haul industry. But one of the members of your slate, Fred Zuckerman, has been the director of that since about 2005 or so. Mm-hmm. Shouldn't a lot of the responsibility fall on him as well? And
absolutely, and Fred Zuckerman did a great job with this past agreement, but the truth be told, Hoffa and his outside consultants tried to put roadblocks in front of Fred Zuckerman trying to negotiate a national car haul agreement. And let me explain why. Bob King, the president of the UAW, went with Fred Zuckerman to Japan to protest the outsourcing of the car haul jobs. Fred Zuckerman and Bob King worked hand in hand. Jim Hoffa took that authority away from Fred Zuckerman. Can you imagine a general president saying, you can't talk to the president of the UAW anymore when we're trying to negotiate a master agreement for our car haul members? I mean, we were really down to like 40% in that industry. Fred Zuckerman, because of his tireless efforts, raised that industry back up to over 60-some% working today. And Jim Hoffa tried to put the roadblock in. Go on my website and see Fred Zuckerman's letter to the general president telling him, why are you stopping me from getting help from the UAW so our members can get a good contract and secure them and their dependents with a good agreement? And Hoffa refused to answer him. They wanted him to write out the questions and they would present them to Bob King. Well, I told Fred you should have booted him in the ass. You don't have to take that. You're there for the membership, not Jim Hoffa. But they played politics with it, and that's wrong. The members deserve better, and that's what I'm going to do when I'm elected general president. Thank you.
Okay, Sandy Pope on car haul, or?
I'm just surprised. Fred has been part of the Hoffa administration for the last 12 years, and now he's suddenly criticizing and all these things that could have been brought up when they were going on. All these problems in car haul and other core industries have been going on for years. I'm not tied to the Hoffa administration. That's the bottom line. I'm the only candidate that's for real change in this race. If people are happy with what's been going on, then they should vote for one of my opponents.
And Ken Hall on car haul.
Well, I have to agree with Sandy that Fred has voted for every issue and every policy that Jim Hoffa's had up until the last 6 months. But in terms of Fred Zuckerman, I'm held responsible for what happens in UPS, and Fred Zuckerman's held responsible for what happens in car haul, and it's been a dismal failure, as everybody knows. Fred Zuckerman has taken that division and reduced it to half its size. Of course, Fred's the same guy who, with UPS, cut a deal. When we talk about all these 22-3 jobs that you guys like to talk about, he cut a deal to turn 8-hour full-time jobs into 6-hour, the only place in the United States of America. That's how Fred Zuckerman operates, and that's what we'll have if Fred Jaguar's team wins.
During the evening, we're going to take a few questions from the folks in the room as well. And the first of those comes from Dennis Taylor of Teamster Local 355, and it's a question to Sandy Pope, I believe.
This question is for Sandy Pope. Sandy, you have been accused of losing assets and watching your pension plan go downhill since you become the principal officer of your local union. Is it true, isn't it true, your pension is in the critical zone and that a majority of your members lost early retirement benefits?
It's true that my pension is in the critical zone, like many of the pensions in the Teamsters, including the Central States Fund. My members, I fought hard to maintain the early retirement, and what I did was I got an agreement with the employer trustees that if you were within 5 years of retiring, that you would still keep your 25 and out benefit. And I have since bargained record increases for our pension fund with a blank check each year from my biggest employer.
Okay. Ken Hall, you want to respond to that?
Well, first of all, let's make sure the record's clear. This agreement that you reached meant that about 40 members out of 500 and some were protected with their 25 and 30 and out benefits. The rest lost their benefits. And you know, it's just more of the same of nobody, you two don't want to take a responsibility for anything. I have a pension fund that's 3 times your size, and it's in the green zone, it's been in the green zone, and that's the kind of financial leadership that you're going to find with the Hoffa Hall team, as opposed to the dismal record of both of our opponents here tonight concerning pension.
And Fred Jaguar.
Well, you know, I'm not a follower of Sandy's pension fund and her local union. I run one of the biggest multi-employer funds in the country, Central States, and Ken Hall at UPS out of Central States pension fund with Jim Hoffa, but he didn't let UPS out of his fund. That's why he's boasting about it being in a green zone. I lost 40% of my revenue because I lost 45,000 participants. And I've had since that date, 192 since April of '08 have left Central States pension fund because of their action. So if they're going to take shots across the bow, get your facts straight. People are out there suffering and they're hurting. And it's not even funny because they worked their whole lives for their pension. And when Hoffa leaves them on the street fighting for their pension, it's a dirty shame.
Next question comes from Ryan, and it goes to Sandy Pope.
Sure. Sandy, you said in a recent interview that if elected, you would lease out the Teamster building here in Washington. Could you elaborate on that? What's the strategy and thinking behind that?
I didn't exactly say that. I said that I felt that we should spend a lot more time out in the field and out of Washington, and that's what I believe. The minute that I get elected, I'm going to set up Teamster Power tours. We're going to go out there and we're going to set up conferences and meetings with the members to hear what they have to say and get their ideas with the local officers all around the country. The president of this union should be out in the field with the members, because if Hoffa had been out there, he'd be hearing how upset people are at UPS and in freight and in waste and in grocery industry and all across and the public employees out there. He's out there making speeches, while what we have to do is listen and bring people together, bring the locals together to fight against our common enemies, which are the corporations right now that are just greedy beyond belief, and they're trying to bring us to our knees. And we really have to fight, but we can't do it if we don't organize the members, if we don't listen, if we don't involve them. They are totally alienated right now from the union. We've got to get them involved to fight back effectively.
Let's do a follow with Fred Jaguar. Is the union too centralized and too big here in Washington? Does it need to redeploy some resources elsewhere?
Absolutely. You got to give more authority to the local unions and the joint councils. This union is in real trouble because it's being ran from the top down. I've told Hoffa that. Ken Hall's witnessed this at board meetings where I says, you can't run this union from the top down. You got to run this union from the bottom up. You have to activate the rank and file. That's what the Teamsters are all about. We need more clout on the local levels. Right now, what's happening with the international is that they send in one of these consultants into a joint council or a local union, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. I mean, you imagine one of those people coming into my local union or my joint council? It won't be nice, because we have the experience, because we're hitting the ground running with the membership. They don't get it, though. Hoffa's gone all the time.
Okay, Ken Hall, what about concentration of resources here in DC and use of resources out in the field?
Well, it's just outrageous to talk about leasing out the IBT. We're here at the center of power in the entire country. But given what I've seen of Sandy's LM2s, she has lost over 83% of her assets from her local union. So she may very well be looking at leasing out the IBT. When Fred talks about top-down, I don't know what he's talking about. And yes, I heard him say that after he decided to run for president. But he knows the same as I do. I've been in a union for 35 years. I believe it's bottom-up. But Fred didn't complain about that for all the years he's been on the board until he decided to run for general president. And last but not least, Fred, please stop calling Central States your fund. I lost 40% of my revenues. You lost 40% of our members' revenues. And by the way, that plan was in a red to start with.
Okay, thank you. The next question goes to Ken Hall, and it comes from me. Teamster mechanics at United Airlines relatively recently rejected the contract that the Teamster bargainers had bargained with the company. Why did that happen, and does that confirm the contention of the other two candidates here tonight that the Hoffa administration has been conceding too much in bargaining generally with UPS and other companies?
Well, first of all, we lost that election. There's 14,000 people involved in that election, and we lost by 300. And the real reason we lost is because the two opponents, who are both running a TDU campaign, put literature out that the machine is used to go after us.
No, I understand that, but before that, in June, a unit you already had at United Airlines, the mechanics, voted down a contract that was been negotiated and been proposed. So the question is, is that reflective of some failure on the part of the Hoffa administration, and does it reflect a broader discontent with the contracts the union's been getting over the last several years?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's always possible to have a contract that's not ratified. That's happened for as many years as I've been here. I mean, there's been times when the national contracts, both freight and UPS, have been rejected. We have one of the highest percentages of ratification. For example, at UPS Freight, that I hear a lot of criticism from our opponents, that group represented, they ratified it by 92%. So there was an issue that perhaps there was some difference of opinion as to what the priority was, and it's something that we'll go back and address. But it's not something out of the ordinary for a contract to get turned down.
Okay. Sandy Pope, want to respond?
Oh, this is part of a pattern in the international where major corporations that are making a ton of money are given concessions. And the United Airlines mechanics voted down that contract because they were going to have to give up health benefits in it. And the international went around and they tried to push that contract down people's throats, and they voted no. And by the way, on the other vote in the airline division, that had to do with the fact that this union agreed to subcontracting in the contract. Has nothing to do with anybody's campaign literature.
Okay, and Fred Jaguar, response.
Well, I've been negotiating contracts for 35 years. I wear several hats for the Teamsters, and you know, when you get into ratifications, you know, it all involves like how the offer's presented. What are the issues that are on the table that are pro and con? So for me to play armchair quarterback with regards to what they were thinking when they voted it down, I'd have to speak to the membership or be at the membership meeting, because you know, each local union has its own autonomy when they ratify a contract, and they should be presenting those offers to their membership and in writing so they understand what they're voting on. But for me to say, well, they should have got this or they should have got that, that's not fair to say to that local union.
Okay. Next question comes from Michelle Amber for Fred Jaguar.
Your campaign wasn't able to get enough support to put you on the ballot in all the various regions. Can you explain why you were unable to obtain the required number of signatures, and are you really running a national campaign?
Yeah, number one, I'm running a national campaign. I'm very pleased with it. The Jaguar Shear team is out there with a very diversified slate.